Before I begin, I owe a massive thanks to my buddy Ben for the opportunity to ride his extensively modified 2010 RSV4. To my eye, the Aprilia RSV4 is one of the most beautiful sport bikes around. The kind of stunning beauty that normally comes with daddy issues, if you know what I mean. In standard trim, you can expect the 998cc 65-degree V4 engine to pump out 180 horsepower and roughly 85 foot-pounds of torque. This particular bike has a mods list as long as my arm, ranging from an aftermarket MAF to larger injectors and more carbon than Adam Jensen's Taint. The already insane 1000cc V4 power plant is now kicking out just shy of 200 brake horsepower. That's enough to rustle anyone's jimmies, but the question is, how does it ride?
Those of you that have followed the channel for a while will know that I have wanted for so long to ride the Aprilia RSV4. It is my favourite sport bike, but purely on vanity alone. This is the first opportunity I've had to ride one. Ben's RSV4 is a 2010 and it's extensively modified. I will put a list in the description of everything that Ben has done to it. Just listen to this. Oh my god. As you would expect, it is not the most comfortable motorcycle in the world. The seat height is surprisingly high. I'm 6'2" and I can just about flat foot the thing. The seat is hard as a piece of granite, but it's actually not that bad. As weird as that sounds, when you're riding it, it's not bad. It's better than I thought it would be. And the suspension, despite being sporty and firm, let me just go into a couple of ruts here, it's handling the bumps a lot better than I expected it to. I'm pleasantly surprised by that. The mirrors are predictably awful, but who cares? Anything that's behind you won't be there for long. There's one word I can think of to describe the power, and that is hilarious. Being a V4, you expect it to be torquey. I knew that it was going to be torquey. What I didn't expect was for it to be as torquey as it is. Bit of feel for the handling. Absolutely glorious, man. Oh my word. It feels like a 600. It feels a little heavy at the top, so I feel like I have to do the work to get the bike to lean in. It's not a difficult job, that's not what I mean. I don't have to wrestle the bike over, but it just feels like I have to earn the corner, and that's beautiful. That sound. Oh, that sound. Oh, the brakes are phenomenally good. Nice and progressive. Oh, I love it. The handlebars are just high enough that I'm able to sit back with one hand on my hip like this and relax slightly. Some sport bikes I've felt in the past have been so aggressively positioned that trying to lean back and relax doesn't work. Because you're so far forward, you still have to support yourself on your wrist. This I don't. And I think it's partly down to this ridge on the tank. Because I'm able to squeeze that so easily because of the width of it, I can hold myself up nice and comfortably.
So after spending a couple of hours on the bike, I've been able to establish that it's a road-going missile. No surprises there. And despite its more mechanical nature, with no electronic wizardry to fill in the gaps, there's no ABS or traction control, but the way it handles is right up my street. You feel like you have to work for it. Once you've overcome the top end weight and the bike leans in, the rest is effortless. At low speed and in town, the experience isn't quite as grand. Below around 3,500 RPM, the clutch is grabby and rattly and the throttle snatchy. The long first gear helps, but it's not something that you'd want to commute through town on. The lack of storage space or a fuel gauge, for instance, hint towards a lack of practicality. Up until now, I've been relatively surprised by how comfortable I've been on the bike. However, the ridges in the tank are starting to dig into my thighs now, and I'm noticing it more and more when I start to slow down and ride in a more relaxed fashion. But, with that said, these minor issues are the last thing on your mind when you're lost in the V4 soundtrack on a windy, open road.
So now I've had a bit more time with the bike and been in some slow speed traffic. I am starting to feel the heat a little more through the frame. It's not as bad as having a hot water bottle between your legs, but there is a heat source there, and you are aware of it. There are things that I'm not a huge fan of. The shape of the tank, unless I'm pressed hard against it, aka I'm really going for it, I'm riding hard, then I'm not quite as comfortable as I could be. It wouldn't put me off buying one, but it's definitely worth noting. The grips, I feel, are too thin. What's interesting is my wrists aren't aching, but my hands are. That could just be me, that could just be the way that I'm put together, but I would definitely put some fat grips on here. The only other bike I've experienced with handling as sharp as this is actually the 809 Panigale. This clinches it, this takes it. This is astronomical. I've never experienced a bike that swaps direction so accurately and so comfortably. It's quite something. Normally, I'm quite content with the way that I ride. When I ride this, however, in the turns, I feel like I've got more to give. This is the kind of bike that would bring out the best riding in me. I feel like this bike is just reaching out his hand saying, dude, I'll teach you. You want to be like me? I'll show you how. I dare say it, I think this is the most confident I've ever felt on a bike, which surprises me because the amount of power this thing has is quite honestly terrifying. And the problem slash good thing about that is that before you know it, you're going way faster than you're legitimately comfortable with. That corner exit speed is phenomenal. On a circuit, you're going to be super hard pressed to find something that can rip you out of a turn like that. It takes the power delivery that makes my everyday street triple R so special to me and transforms it into something just beastly, just something almost completely unrecognizable. I've never ridden anything that kicks me up the backside like this. I think one of the things that makes this bike so thrilling to ride for me is that in spite of the ridiculous power, it's so incredible in the turns. I'm so relaxed, it's weird. The last thing that you would expect to be at the kind of speeds that this bike achieves is completely relaxed, because all these things are rushing past you and things are coming up quickly, and you know that your reaction time is super important, but the bike isn't breaking a sweat, and I can feel that, I can tell, I know it, and it makes me feel better. It's like your first time at a rodeo isn't so bad because you're there with a veteran, someone who's done it before, someone who's calm under pressure. And that's what this bike is. It's calm under pressure.
I've certainly enjoyed my time with the Aprilia RSV4, but let's get the negatives out of the way. I felt that the grips were too thin, but that is a matter of taste after all. The bike is unhappy at low RPM, the ridges either side of the tank are uncomfortable after some time, and as a result you'd better enjoy riding with a wedgie because you're most comfortable when pressed up against the tank. Personally though, I've never been so happy to have my panties all up in a bunch. The rearview mirrors are pretty useless. You do begin to feel some heat from the frame, but nothing like as bad as the Panigale I rode previously. A fuel gauge would be nice, especially considering how quickly it drinks it, but I am being picky here. On the plus side though, the sheer beauty and performance-influenced design choices make this motorcycle a sight to behold. The back end is exquisite and dainty, the ridges on the tank complement the thin profile and match the tailpiece perfectly. The downforce generating nose cone and side panels are subtle and functional. There's far more room than I expected. For someone of my height and weight, there was room to spare. The sound it produces is phenomenal. Like the sound of a siren luring a sailor towards certain death, the biblical roar of Aprilia's V4 taunts riders towards points on their license. The power that this bike delivers is huge. I expected it to be a rocket ship, and it is. The low-down grunt beats anything that I've experienced before. There's no doubt that the 65-degree V4 is my favourite engine to date that's been shoehorned into a sport bike chassis. But my favourite aspect of this bike is unquestionably the way that it changes direction. This bike maintains a level of mechanical grip so vast that when tearing through a corner with a furrowed brow and sweat pouring down your face, you can feel that the bike is still half asleep. The cornering ability is more confidence-inspiring than anything I've ridden before. It delivers the kind of naughty fun that makes you feel like you're cheating on your wife. It's not an uncommon nor necessarily inaccurate belief that bikes like this belong on a track, but despite the ferocious power and excellent handling, it's still able to deliver a ride comfortable enough to enjoy a B-road blast, especially thanks to the low-down acceleration. Previously, in my Speed RRR review, I questioned if the era of the sport bike was dead. This bike has taught me that that comment was born of ignorance. Since experiencing the glorious power delivery of Aprilia's mighty V4, I realise now that I was wrong. The sport bike definitely lives. Ultimately, would I own one of these? As my daily bike? No. It would be wasted in my possession, and I wouldn't want to ride it for extended periods of time. As a second bike though, absolutely. It's hard to think of a better tool for the job when all you want to do is take your motorcycle out and remind yourself why you enjoy being alive. The Tuono, however? Well, now that could be interesting.